Hey, Gary, thanks for waiting.
Yeah, no problem. What's up?
I just got done speaking with Fernando. He didn't intend on running you into the wall, but felt that you made it unfair when you ran him wide out of turn 3.
Yeah, but did I put him into the wall or what?
It was certainly close. Listen, we need to think team game here, and we still got a 1-2 finish, which is the main goal.
Well, my main goal, of course, is just not getting ran over.
Listen, I talked with Fernando, and he was on good terms. Let's just focus forward to Miami, okay? Good luck. I hear there's some rain in the forecast.
Well, there you hear our post-race Baku chat with Lawrence Stroll about the contact and final lap battle with our teammate of Fernando Alonso after he put us into the wall. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of F123 Driver Career Mode, fresh off of 2 back-to-back runner-up finishes and 1-2 finishes for Aston Martin. We are headed to Miami, which is another track that should logically benefit the Aston Martin. It will be the last one for a bit, so this could be our last shot to maybe get a win here for a few races at least. So kind of focusing in on this one. Now rain is in the forecast this weekend here in Miami for the actual Grand Prix, so we'll have to wait and see what the weather actually has in store for us. But you guys know that I never turned down an opportunity in F123 to race in the rain. That's kind of where my strong suit has been for whatever reason. Still have not figured out why in the world my pace has been so good in the wet weather in this game compared to last game. But yeah, I'm honestly really hoping that it rains in the Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see, of course, what happens there. But the forecast is looking promising to get exactly what I am looking for. Here we are on Friday afternoon, though, getting some practice in. Now, if you guys have watched in the past, you would know I'm not personally a fan of this circuit. For whatever reason, the United States tracks, I just hate the layouts of all 3 of them. Las Vegas, not a fan of. Circuit of the Americas, I've never been a fan of. In Miami, I am certainly not a fan of either. However, it would just make it that much better if I was able to win one of them, specifically this one right here. Now, as I was pretty happy with how the car was in free practice 1. We were 10th on the leaderboard, while my teammate of Alonso there was 2nd place here as we rolled into qualifying Saturday afternoon, a little more close to the conditions we might see on the race day. As you can see, the cloud cover over top of the track here. Now, as I still love this helmet, F1 and Codemasters did such a good job putting that helmet in the game. Like, I don't even want a modded helmet right now. We changed a couple components, including the turbocharger and the MGU, and now we would have to wait for about 12 minutes before we can make a lap, so that put it into basically a 1 lap and done kind of deal, but we should be able to easily cruise into Q2, and that's exactly what would happen. We would have no issues. P13, actually, it was a little bit close. Sargent, De Vries, Magnussen, Bottas, and Stroll all out in Q1. Zhou Guanyu advancing through into Q2. Very cool to see. But here we are in Q2. Very similar. Pretty straightforward. Of course, should be able to cruise into Q3. Now, my first lap wasn't as quick as I was hoping for. It was P4, but that would drop us down to P8. So I did make a second lap late in the session to play it safe. We only found about a 10th and a half, and that would allow us to make it through into P6 while Alonso was 2nd, as Gasly, Piastri, Ocon, Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda out in Q2. So here we are, Q3, banker lap. It was meh, wasn't great. P6 of 7 cars at the time, so we knew we were going to have one shot to go from P9 to wherever here on my final lap in Q3 as we barrel off into turn 1 on this fresh set of soft tires. The banker lap was run on Q1 tires, I believe it was actually now, but overall, gaining some time throughout the lap already in the opening sector, about 0.2 of a second of a gain, and then as we head down towards the final part of the sector, we're going to find about 3 to 4 tenths of a second. This chicane right here, you can either make or break your lap, and you can see we make it right there. We're gaining a whole 1.5 tenths, 0.2 of a second just about there, just from that one specific chicane. Down into the final turn though, a purple sector 2 apparently. Not sure if I actually believe that, but we gain about 0.6 of a second. Where is that going to put us from P9 on the grid currently? It's only going to be 1 spot improvement. P8 is where we will start. As you can see, Perez and his teammate of Verstappen 2nd and 4th. A great effort by Red Bull, but Russell on pole as Aston Martin and Mercedes struggle to get a good lap in. Let's head to the grid on Sunday.
Formula One has arrived in the Sunshine State for spectacular sunsets, gentle breezes, warm waters, and for what will be a fantastic race day here at the Miami International Autodrome. Sitting at the southeastern coast of Florida, the Miami International Autodrome has 19 corners and 3.36 miles of racing. It's a circuit designed to encourage close racing while meeting the highest safety standards. Either way, I'm sure it's one that will please the fans. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton, Sainz, Golden Boy, Norris, Albon, Gasly, Oscar Piastri, Ocon, Joe, Tsunoda, Sargent, De Vries, Magnussen, Bottas, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. We should talk about Williams. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Well then, we are ready to roll here from Miami now. As you can see, it should be raining right now, but it's not. So we are going to start on mediums because there's just a big unknown right now. A lot of drivers in the back half of the grid starting on softs, but it's really hard to tell what's going to happen as we get ready to go.
The formation lap gets underway and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
So do we know when the rain is going to hit?
It is over top of us, I'd say within 5 minutes maximum.
You hear Mark telling us about 5 minutes maximum. I decided to be on the mediums because when I saw that it was supposed to be raining and it was the same rain level for like 3/4 of the race, I'm like, we could be in this situation for a lot longer than we expect. So I didn't want to risk starting on the softs. We'll see how this plays out. Nonetheless, the AlphaTauri of Lance Stroll rolling up to the back of the grid here now as we're going to get ready to go racing from Miami for the first of 3 United States Grand Prix. Actually 2, we don't have Las Vegas on the calendar this season. It's going to be 5 red lights, lights out, we're underway. George Russell, Sergio Perez, Alonso, your top 3 as we're underway down towards the first corner, and Perez is up the inside of Russell already wheel to wheel, but I believe it's going to be Russell getting the advantage. Yes, it is. Russell already clear for the lead now over Perez and Alonso. And it's a great showing this weekend so far from the Red Bull team as they continue to make improvements and close the gap to the front, of course, after Mercedes and Aston Martin worked together over that offseason to, of course, get that advantage going into the season. But like we said, we worked so hard at the beginning of the season pace that we know that we're probably going to fall off in the midseason and just kind of go right back into Red Bull. And I think it's going to turn into a 3, potentially more teams fighting at the end of the season for not only the Drivers' Championship, but the Constructors' Championship as well. But we've got a huge early lead, both Mercedes and Aston does on Red Bull. I'm nearly into the back of the Ferrari of Sainz right there, just overshot the corner, just really not thinking on that one, but fortunately we don't lose anything, so we actually gain time. We're right on the back now of Carlos Sainz as we go through the chicane on this opening lap here. Now you got to be so careful through there on that opening lap now as we are all over the back of the Ferrari, putting some pressure on Sainz early on here. Now Lando Norris, Alex Albon 9th and 10th behind us here, now looking for an overtake on Sainz, lap 2 at the end of the long straightaway. Of course, the strong suit of this Aston Martin, we have the best straight line speed of anybody now, so putting it to advantage here in the last couple of Grand Prix and today as well in Miami. As you can see, this kind of train right here being led by Sergio Perez as Russell was driving away and Perez was just holding everybody up, and it was creating this mess right here in front of us. You can see these cars all together. Leclerc, Hamilton side by side. I was looking for an opportunity, but, you know, not really wanting to force anything side by side through here. There was a bit of urgency, though, because the rain was here on lap 3 of the Grand Prix, so it's like, okay, when are we going to hit the transition point to, of course, go to inters and whatnot? And you can see already lap 4, Hamilton right here, I mean, having a bit of a slip and slide, but, I mean, in control of the car, but I wasn't dealing with the sliding around yet, so this is giving me an opportunity on just outright grip to make some moves, and we lunge one up the inside of Hamilton, nearly into the back of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, as him and Leclerc are side by side, and so is myself and Hamilton. Still, as we head down towards the chicane, Hamilton's going to back out of it and just give me the spot now, so P6 we take now, and I was expecting, you know, that rain to really start to make an effect here over the next few moments of this race here. Probably the next lap or two will be all pitting for the intermediate tire, but here we are down the long straightaway. Leclerc, Verstappen again side by side. This just opens the door for myself to join the party basically here now. As you can see, the ground we were able to close. Watch Verstappen right here in sector 1. I mean, all over the place on grip now, and I was just waiting behind him patiently for the DRS zone, and here we go now for the overtake. So this should be an easy pass on Max Verstappen as he is kind of fading down the order now towards 6th position as we continue on to put the fight to Charles Leclerc a little bit later on the lap. Now Perez as well drifting backwards. Alonso was able to get him for 2nd place. We're drag racing into the final braking zone here with the Ferrari now side by side, just showing my nose, just trying to barely hang on there and not allow Leclerc to get clear, but he will probably get clear right here. Yes, he will across the stripe. I'm going to tuck in behind him to get a little bit of slipstream and then pull back out to the inside and lunge it down into turn 1, and there we go. We're going to complete the pass on Leclerc, and another position gained up into 4th position here now, as I was starting to slide around a little bit myself, but you can see the track so far in this exact moment looked okay, but you guys know the transition when you got to go over to inters kind of comes really quick, and you just got to pay attention to the visual of the track surface here, and at this moment it looked okay, but you can see a slide there. That was more from the curbing, but by the time we come through towards later in this lap, you can start to see the track is starting to go away, and now I am starting to slip around a little bit. You can really see mainly the rain hitting the surface of the track now, and I mean towards the end of the lap I was like, there's no way. Look, you can see a little bit of puddling. I said, let's come in. I was starting to struggle. It's time to box here in Miami for the inters. We're the only one. We're the only one coming in, so I was a bit surprised by this because you can definitely tell we're in that period where the Inter is going to probably be the stronger tire. So we're going to come in as the only one, and this could be either a screw-up or a major advantage. We're about to find out, of course, and we head towards the exit here. Will be P19 Ocon behind us because he had to pit already for some wing damage, but we were gaining time very quickly. 5.7 seconds behind Lance Stroll on the opening moments of getting out of the pits, and we would close in basically a full second and then some here within about a sector. So I was pretty happy that we would obviously have made the right call. The end of lap 9, nobody had pitted yet. We were still the only one on inters, and look at the time difference, but now George Russell a few laps later is finally coming in, so they waited as long as they could, and they have really lost time. So this is going to be an opportunity for myself. Of course, here I am now making a pass on Stroll. He's still staying out. We still have cars staying out. DRS is still enabled, by the way, and I'm like, how in the world is DRS enabled? And Russell's still actually going to come out in front of us. I think he might have even gained time as Perez and Alonso exit right here. We got Bottas, of course, in the Sauber. We're going to split them 3 wide and go around them and kind of hustling through to try and put a gap between myself and the cars behind. We know, of course, our strong suit in this game is in the rain. DRS disabled. That's what I'd like to see. I was pretty confident at this point here. Now as we roll up on the back of Logan Sargent, I got no time to waste, of course, with our Formula 2 rival of Sargent. I just barge him right out of the way as he was not very happy about that on the radio.
What a stupid idiot he is.
You hear radio from Logan Sargent. We continue on, though. We did get a warning for that collision here. Now, no love lost between myself and our rival from the Formula 2 days, but we cycled through into 2nd place. So obviously, we make some gains, but we're 8 seconds still behind George Russell. And my concern was building, because although our strong suit is the rain, the time between myself and Russell was getting larger. It was up to 10.5 seconds, and my teammate of Alonso had run me down instead, which was not in the deck of cards that I had in my hand, and unfortunately I was lacking so much pace that I just had no other choice than to move aside and let Fernando go. And, you know, we got to put Baku aside and think about the team game at the end of the day. I mean, it is what it is. We are going to quite simply move on and try to focus forward here. And of course, if we get a chance to maybe repay the favor, we're going to take that opportunity. At some point, this was Lance Stroll going for a spin. Shocker there. We have seen that many times this season. No safety car, so we continue on. But yeah, he goes around for, I think, the second Grand Prix in a row, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he did have that crash in Baku, which it turned into a multi-car incident as well here. Now, lap 18 of 29, we have a yellow out of the final turn. I was hopeful for a safety car because that looks like a multi-car pile-up, and it was because Bottas loses grip. He goes around on the nose of Magnussen, who drives into him, so there's some wing damage there, and then Ocon's in it, so no safety car, not even a virtual safety car, which is a bit surprising when 3 cars were stopped there at the same time. So we continue on here towards the final 10 laps of the Grand Prix, which you guys know means it's time to go through the grid.
What a drive today from George Russell, in total control of this race.
Good redemption after his engine failure in Baku as well, Crofty. I'm a bit shocked that Owen hasn't had his usual wet pace today. I felt this weather would have really played into his hands. Is there something wrong with his car, Ted?
No, I haven't heard a thing, guys, so that tells me all is fine, and he is just struggling to find the pace on those intermediate tires. Still a solid run, nonetheless, for him in third currently.
It's a quiet through the grid today, as it so far has been a calm race. You see a whole train of cars behind Max as he has struggled for pace all day in that Red Bull.
Yeah, Perez has pace, but Max doesn't today. They've made gains, but obviously have a long way to go.
Really quiet through the grid here today as we continue on in these final 10 laps of this Miami Grand Prix, lap 21 of 29. Now, there was a bit of concern. My tires, look at my tires right here. You're going to see it as I finally try to get it up. 50% on the front. So, yeah, they're pretty worn for the final 10 laps of this Grand Prix. That was something I was paying attention to. Obviously, wearing more every lap, and you're going to see 55% on the fronts now, 50 on the left rear, 52 on the right rear. So that was a bit of a concern, and at this point, I wasn't driving very hard because of that specific reason. I knew I didn't have the pace to run down Alonso or George Russell, and you can see the tire icon, the tire warning light we'll call it, comes on lap 24. Now, my pace to Russell was a lot better towards the end of this Grand Prix, and the rain had now stopped. So it's a really interesting time for the rain to stop, and I'm asking about it, what's the weather situation, and Mark's saying the Inters still look like the best tires. So it looks like everybody's going to be running to the end on these Inters, which, when I see 64% on the fronts, maybe not what I want to hear. Usually, when you get to 70 or so percent, the tire could blow at any point after that. Now, DRS enabled, as we have just 3 laps to go in Miami. Now, the question is, are our tires going to hang on here now in these final 3 laps of this Grand Prix? I think they will, based off that, but they're at 75% on the fronts, coming to 2 laps to go in the Grand Prix. I think we're going to be fine, but we head down into turn 1, continuing to stay about 2 to 2.5 seconds behind Fernando Alonso. There it is. The right front tire's got a puncture now as we're going to go through the right-hander, and it completely goes down, and that's going to be race destroyed potentially here, as we're going to have to limp this thing all the way around the circuit. It happened 2 corners into the track. There goes Perez alongside, moves into the podium position. I'm trying to stay out of the way of Lewis Hamilton. We nearly wrecked the car. A big slide. We're going to hang on to it at the end of the day, but an absolute heartbreaking moment here now, as we would have to limp the car all the way around the track. Here I am, just full beans down the straightaway, trying to hustle this thing here, but I knew coming up behind me was Carlos Sainz. I'm just hitting barriers, I'm hitting everything, just trying to bring this car back around the circuit here now, and look at myself here now, just limping it through the chicane. But it was about to kick off. We're approaching the final lap, a completely dry track. I get some damage, but hold on, we've got cars in the pits. What's going on here? George Russell is into the pits, and so is Fernando Alonso. They're coming in for soft tires and maybe mediums as well. It's softs, I believe, for Russell, but Perez stays out on the Inters. Perez is going to take the lead of this race on the final lap of the Grand Prix. I'm limping it into the pits, and I can't stop, and I end up speeding and getting a 5-second time penalty, so we're not going to get points, I don't think, at this point now. There's other cars staying out on the track with Inters. We come in for softs. Everything is kicked off here in about a lap and a half. Perez leads, and there is Russell not far behind on a fresh set of soft tires. Alonso's on mediums in third, but yeah, Perez in command, but Russell clearly closing, especially through the downforce focus sections, and you can see the gap right there between the two drivers now as I'm all the way down in 10th place, but with a 5-second time penalty now, as you can see down the long back straightaway for the final time, and it's a perfect case scenario for Perez. There was no corners really to worry about yet, but he's got, of course, one final slow corner heavy section right here as he heads down into the braking zone. Russell is going to close up so much right here, and you can see the gap visibly getting shorter and shorter, and here we come through the final few moments, and I think Perez is going to hang on. Russell is there, he's right to the back wing, but it's not enough. Perez steals the win and gets Red Bull back on top in Miami, and Alonso's going to get third. I'm just bringing it home at this point now, trying to run down the cars in front of us that are on the inters. Leclerc has an absolute gargantuan of a run down towards the braking zone. I decide not to fight him because we have the 5-second time penalty anyways, as he logs up and I hit the back of him and get wing damage out of it. Pierre Gasly looks up my inside. We're going to hang on, but he's going to get the position nonetheless, so it's going to be P12 with the time penalty here, as fortunately 9 seconds ahead of Kevin Magnussen. What in the world, though, just happened here in the ending of Miami? Unbelievable. Who even got driver of the day? Oh, Logan Sargent. Let's head to the podium for the celebrations and try to dissect what just happened.
And that's the checkered flag. What an amazing victory in what has been a great Miami Grand Prix. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
I really don't know how to explain everything that just went down there. 2 laps ago, turn 2, our right front tire blows, so we have to limp all the way around the track to get to the pits. And then what could have been, because we could have been in position to do what Perez did and get our first win in Formula 1. Instead, Perez gets to do it and stay out on inters. He is so lucky, of course, that there was that long straightaway there to keep Russell from closing in on him right at the end of the circuit. So Perez brings Red Bull back to the top step of the podium. A bit of luck, or not luck, that was just pure strategy and just being smarter and taking advantage of the situation that he found himself in. But Russell and Alonso joined him on the podium. Sargent got 2 points, by the way. That's why he gets driver of the day. Piastri ends up P6. Wow, what an ending. Our worst result of the season. I'm just glad I didn't destroy the car in DNF. But here you see the standings now. Alonso's banked by 3 on Hamilton, 25 for Russell, 37 for us, as we of course have no points here today, unfortunately. And the constructors, not what we needed, of course. With the no points, we're 15 points now behind Mercedes. Red Bull is tied with Ferrari in the constructors. Next episode, it's Monaco, all about qualifying there. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day, everybody.